Welcome back on this November 30th. Today is Giving Tuesday. In the days following Black Friday, Cyber Weekend, and Cyber Monday, you may be thinking you'd rather give to those in need than spend. So joining us today is the president and CEO of Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits, Marnie Taylor. Marnie, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. It's a big day for nonprofits and for donors.
Yeah, and Marnie, tell us about the landscape of nonprofits in Oklahoma. Obviously, you all help and support so many nonprofits throughout our state, and you have been doing that for years. What's the landscape now with post-COVID, COVID, and then the post-economic aftermath?
Let's pray for post-COVID, but
yes.
Giving during COVID was really interesting to track. Large donors who were really giving out of their wealth, maybe stock gifts, property gifts and things, they kind of went up quickly and they stayed fairly high. But what happened really for the average donor who gives out of their paycheck, out of their cash flow, they got pretty scared at the beginning of COVID. And so a lot of smaller donors, and smaller is relative, even $500 to $5,000 donors really cut back on their giving during COVID. Overall giving, we're still giving over $1 billion a year to nonprofits a day, $1 billion a day to nonprofits in the United States, which is huge. But we have seen some good comeback from even those who, were able to keep their jobs, working hard and want to still contribute to nonprofits. So I'm glad to say we're kind of coming out the other end after COVID.
That's good to hear. You've kind of put together a checklist of what you need to do before you donate, and we have a graphic for it. I just wanted to kind of take people through it. First of all, why is it important to know the name, address, and physical website? I mean, it sounds silly to ask, but why is it important to know the name and the address?
No, it really does. Well, first of all, you're going to be sending your donation in some way, either through a portal on their website, or actually you're going to mail a check in, or you got something in the mail. Your inbox is probably inundated this morning. Yesterday it was cyber. Today it's all the nonprofits that are on your list are asking you, but you really do need to exactly know who you're giving to. Truthfully, many nonprofits have very similar names. And while they're all registered at the Secretary of State with a unique name, sometimes a kind of a nickname can happen. And so you really want to make sure that you're giving to the animal shelter you think you're giving to, or to the food bank you think you're giving to. So really do make sure that it's going to the organization where you intend it to go.
I wanted to hit on that point about, Marnie, the Oklahoma Secretary of State. So there's a list that we can look up with the Oklahoma Secretary of State's office where you can see if they've registered as a nonprofit.
Yes, several years ago, well, you always had to register as a nonprofit because you're a corporation in Oklahoma. But we actually put in a rule about solicitation, charitable solicitation. So if you go on the Secretary of State's on their website, you will find all of those nonprofits that have actually registered. They've been given a number, but they've had to answer some questions like, do you use an outside fundraiser? How much do you pay your outside fundraiser? And that was really a consumer protection rule put in years ago so that people could understand how much of their money really goes into the pocket of the nonprofit, which is really important. And unfortunately, there are some businesses in this country who make a lot of living off of phone solicitation or mail solicitation of nonprofits that take a really hefty percentage, maybe up to 75% of your donation could be going to a fundraiser rather than to the actual charity. So by going to the Secretary of State's website, you can see if they're actually registered in Oklahoma, and you can also see if they're using outside people to help raise the money. It's not against the law. I mean, somebody has to help them, but there are some bad practices in place, and that will help reveal that to a consumer.
In terms of good practices, what are some numbers or ratios that you suggest? So as in, does 80%, at least 70% need to go direct? I mean, what are some of the numbers that you kind of tell people that you need to be looking for?
I'm really comfortable with 70%. Some people want it to be a little bit higher, but I'm an executive of a large nonprofit, and we have overhead, we have marketing costs, we have costs to mail those mailers, we have insurance to pay our employees. My time goes into a lot of administrative work that would not qualify as program work. So don't be too hard on a charity that, may be closer to 70% or 80% in program. I would actually say if someone says 95 or 99 or 100% of our money goes directly into program, I would ask a few questions like, who's paying the overhead? Because
Right.
we are all businesses. That's what we teach, and we all have overhead. But it is really important. If it's lower than 70, that's going directly into program, not into admin or fundraising, that could be a red flag.
Well, Marnie Taylor, thank you so much for your time. A busy day for you. You have your Visions fundraiser in Oklahoma City tonight, and you all still doing the work out there. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me on, and everybody get their checkbooks out today because it's a big day for nonprofits.
We appreciate it.